Hi, I'm Jim. This project we're working on now is getting heat into the cabin of my Merlin GT here. Winters get a little chilly here in Michigan. It'd be nice to have some heat. So originally I was thinking water cooled, and I even have a heater core here that was given to me by the previous owner of the airplane who intended to install some hot water heat. But I thought about it, and I've been talking or corresponding with other Merlin GT owners, and the ones I've corresponded with have a heat muff around the muffler, and they're happy with the results from that. And in the end, it's less weight and probably easier to package. Trying to package that heater core somewhere under the mess that's my panel back there. That's a problem. So I decided to go with a hot air heat using a heat muff. So I'm going to do this as a series of 3 videos. First video will be fabricating and installing a fiberglass intake tube to mount into the air inlet here. The radiator is right behind. I've got a duct between this opening and the radiator. It'll mount on the side of the duct. That'll be my fresh air pickup for the heater. Second video should be fabricating and installing the muff on the muffler, and the third video would be fabricating and installing a diverter valve to control the heat, turn it on and off. And at the end of that, I should, if everything goes according to plan, we'll do a little flight test, and I'll take a temperature gauge, and we'll see what kind of temperature the air is coming out of the heater system versus the outside temperature versus a couple places in the cabin. That's the plan, okay? So I will mention once again, I ain't no A&P, so anything I do might be, a horrible thing in the eyes of the FAA or whatever, so if you get into trouble because you did something that I said to do, then don't blame me. Okay, let's get on with it. Plan A for the duct work that attaches the hose, the heat hose, to the air inlet up by the front of the cowl, is to come off the side, turn, and into a 2-inch circle. I was looking for some foam to start carving on, and I ran into this at Myers. It measures 1 3/4 inches in diameter, so it's a little bit small, but I want, when I'm done, I want 2 inches of outside diameter. So if I build this up just a little bit, then by the time I put a few layers of glass around it, it's going to be pretty close to 2 inches. So I'm going to start with this and see what we've got. And I want it to essentially be about 6 inches, come into here, and not more than 3 inches. I've got some lines drawn here. So what I'm going to do, take out my handy dandy Swiss Army knife, just carve off a section I can work with here. Okay, so I want one end to be fairly square, and I think when it'd be nice if it didn't curve right at the very end, so I may have to, well, if I fill it in here, it'll kind of straighten it out. We'll see. I want that to be pointed straight perpendicular, and then that means it will touch the, I don't want 3 inches, I want about 2.5. That means it'll touch the plane of my ductwork to the radiator right along here. So if I cut parallel to that line, so I can start making my mold like that. I just need to build this up, put some fillets in here so that probably a smaller scrap of wood to attach it to would be better. Okay, I think hot melt will work on this. Find out real soon. I got lots of extra material. Yeah, as long as I don't apply too much. At this point, it should be stuck down pretty good, I think. Hopefully not so good that I can't bust it off. So I got it stuck down. Normally I like plasticine modeling clay for this kind of thing, but this is what I've got. I didn't have any at the store the other day. So I'm going to try and blend this. And if I was making a female mold, I'd be a lot fussier about the surface, because then, the mold surface would be your quality of your finished product. But since I'm just going to be applying the fiberglass cloth around this, I'm not going to be so fussy, because any lines and lumps will show up on the inside of this part, and just like the old commercial, only my hairdresser will know. Just a little bit of a fillet through here, just to make it easy to wrap the cloth. In here I'm going to have to be fairly generous. And if I put the cloth on a bias in this area here, I think I can make it conform. Okay, now for mold release. Another one of my secret shortcuts here is that epoxy doesn't really stick to duct tape. So if duct tape actually makes, or even packing tape, you can use either. And this is actually kind of how I made the duct that connects the front air inlet to the radiator on my cowl. Was I built it up out of cardboard and then covered it in duct tape and put the glass over that. So it does actually work. Getting these parts is going to be a little bit tricky. Duct tape doesn't really conform to compound curves very well. Got a little wrinkle in there. I don't like that. Peel that off. Go with a narrower strip. You will get lines, all these seam lines will show up in your part. That's the downside to this method. But again, they're on the inside of the duct. And I should be able to do a reasonably neat job of putting fiberglass on it, so it's not a problem. question of how wide a strip can I get away with here. It's too wide. Oh yeah, I think this is going to turn out nice. And if a little bit of epoxy gets through the seams, it's not the end of the world because I'm going to be grinding all the foam out from the inside anyhow. That's getting a little more wrinkly than I really like. Okay, so that's not the way I want to do it. If I go this way, I have to build up some diameter anyhow, right? Okay, I think where I'm going wrong is I'm trying to wrap it not horizontally, it's not radially. If I wrap it radially, then I don't have to stretch it so much. So if I do wrap it in that direction, then that works fine. Okay. It's going to overlap a lot on the bottom, but again, that's okay because I'm building up diameter as I go. Okay. Eventually I figure things out. Okay, we're getting close to the diameter I think I need. It's right around 1.9 inches. A bit more right there. Yeah. I'm going to call that. This area right here is kind of wrinkled, so I'm going to try and stretch a piece in there. Okay, so most of this isn't half bad. I got some decent fillets so that the glass cloth will lay in here fairly decently. The only real ugly area is right in here. You can see there's some pretty bad wrinkles. Let me try just a thin piece, a narrow strip. I kind of bridge that stuff. Got some improvement. Oh yeah, much better. So hopefully that's reasonably focused. That should be a reasonable shape. I could put a piece across here. It wouldn't hurt. Thickness, I got a nice curve. When it's, when I peel this off, I have a flange here. I can glue it to the side of that duct, cut the inside out, and then put some, put another sheet over it to kind of laminate it. Not bad. I didn't see how long it took me exactly, but not very long, and it's ready for glass. All I gotta do is find my fiberglass supplies. Okay, so at this point I got some pieces pre-cut to put over this on my 30-minute mold. I got my epoxy good and stirred. Scrape the bottoms as you stir, scrape the sides, stir, stir, stir. If you don't mix, you got problems. So we'll got that one piece sitting there, so we'll just we'll do this. A little epoxy down. Kind of stiff because it's kind of chilly here. I got a heater going, but it hasn't really warmed up the epoxy. Difficult area is in here. The strips that I cut a lot of them right. I cut them on the bias so that they'll be real. I mean, even just plain cloth is pretty flexible and conforms to compound curves pretty easy. When you cut it on the bias, it's like amazingly flexible. On the bias, I mean, if you've got your weave running this way, you cut it in strips at a 45-degree angle. Makes the cloth much more flexible. So this is one of the strips for the underneath. Put some resin there. And as you can see, it folds back on itself and then conforms over here and over here. That's pretty flexible. I want to get enough epoxy in it that it's saturated. Not much more than that. It just adds weight without adding a lot of strength. You might be able to see it here, the threads running on the 45s. I cut that on the bias. There's still some fuzzies and spots. Those will sand off. overall, there's the part. We'll let it harden and try to get the mold out and see what it looks like. At this point, if I keep fussing with it, I'm just going to make it worse. So, onward and upward. Okay, at this point it's hardened up enough. I can think I can do some rough trimming and see if I can't get the styrofoam out. We'll see what happens. Okay, it's still a little bit soft, but you know, nobody's ever accused me of having an overabundance of patience. Okay, apparently I failed to turn the camera on when I pulled all that styrofoam plug out of there. I got a little problem area right here where the epoxy got behind the tape. A little grinding will get down to the tape and clean that out. Yeah, all in all, it's not a bad looking part, you know, for 30 minutes to make the mold and probably about 15-20 minutes to actually lay it up. This could have been a little better here, but got some lumps from the tape. Yeah. But that we'll put some filler behind it and glue it down, and that should work. I don't know how big it is. So I am, wow, basically 2 inches right on the money. Talk about dumb luck. Okay, well, we'll clean this up a bit after it, you know, finishes curing. Okay, let's try cleaning this up while we're here. There we go. It's not bad on the inside in terms of the surface. You might be able to pick up some of the, like there's a tape seam right there. You can pick those up. But, hey, it'll do the job. So this is about where it goes. I've got a bit of a lump right here, not letting it sit as flat as I'd like. So we'll mix up some epoxy with some Cavasil or silica, colloidal silica, and probably some micro balloons so it doesn't get too heavy, and we can fill those gaps, and I can put a piece of glass, you know, over the whole thing later on to kind of close that up, and that should be okay. So you can see the outline there of where it's I'm going to open it up. I can't I don't have a good way to get the camera in here, so I'll have to do this offline, but I put the other, put another layer of fabric on the outside to essentially reinforce all those overlaps. So now my ductwork is kind of sandwiched between the two layers of glass, so I'll cut it out and then we'll come back. Okay, that's it from the fresh air sides, looking at the hole going into the duct for the heater. And I'll take you around to the other side. And that's the duct installed from the engine compartment side. And I think that'll wrap this part of the video. To a further back view, so you can kind of put things in perspective. There it is. So this will wrap up this piece of the video, and hope you found it useful. I'd say all in all, when we're looking at that thing, it looks almost legitimate considering how much time I actually put into making the mold. Next up, we should be doing the muffler shroud on the muffler for here, and then of course the diverter box for the firewall. Those are a bit more of a challenge. So, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the flip side.